With unique attractions, spectacular state-of-the-art stadiums, and a traditional Arab hospitality, it promises to host a tournament like no other. This is how FIFA, namely football's governing body, has marketed the 2022 World Cup. But despite FIFA's encouraging words, the reality has proven to be very different. So different so that Amnesty has dubbed it the World Cup of Shame. So how and why was Qatar chosen to host the World Cup? Let's start by looking at Qatar's climate. In the summer months, the average temperature is around 35 degrees Celsius with possibilities of temperatures rising to 50 degrees Celsius. Hence, the World Cup had to be moved to winter since Qatar's climate and specifically the heat is actually dangerous, both for the players but also for the supporters. This is the first time ever the World Cup will be played in winter, and it will completely disrupt the schedule of club football. Given that Qatar is a country with no real football tradition, massive efforts have been taken in order to prepare the country for the tournament. To successfully host the World Cup, a country needs adequate infrastructure to be able to accommodate the interest it attracts. This means hotels, public transportation, airports, and maybe most importantly, stadiums. Qatar has dedicated 8 stadiums to the World Cup. One will have been heavily refurbished, while the other 7 will have been built from scratch. One of Qatar's key projects is the Lusail Stadium. Located in Lusail, it will be the stadium that hosts the final of the World Cup. The city was initially conceived in 2005, but development truly took off when Qatar was announced as a host of the 2022 World Cup. Hence, a new city will have been built just in time to display at the World Cup. It is a brand new stadium located in a brand new city. By some estimates, the World Cup is going to cost Qatar approximately $220 billion. In reference, this is about 60 times the $3.5 billion that South Africa spent on 2010 World Cup. So how was Qatar chosen to host the World Cup? Since 2010, 16 of the 22 committee members who voted in the election of Qatar as host have been either suspended or imprisoned. Originally, the committee consisted of 24 members, but 2 had already been excluded before the vote after corruption allegations. Sadly, this statistic should come as no surprise. Disturbingly, corruption scandals related to the World Cup are routine. The question is no longer if Qatar had won the rights due to corruption, but to what extent they did. In fact, every World Cup since the Germany World Cup in 2006 have, to some extent, involved corruption, and FIFA has had a decade permeated by corruption, with numerous scandals exposing the organization. Undoubtedly, FIFA is no stranger to corruption. Perhaps the issue that has attracted the most interest is how the migrant workers that are preparing the World Cup are being treated. In Article 3 of FIFA's statutes, the organization emphasizes the importance of human rights. It states, FIFA is committed to respecting all internationally recognized human rights and shall strive to promote the protection of these rights. However, basic human rights have been neglected ever since construction began in Qatar. Recently, The Guardian revealed that more than 6,500 workers have died since Qatar was awarded the World Cup. A majority of these workers have been employed on the World Cup infrastructure projects. The actual toll is believed to be even higher. In Qatar, 1.7 million migrant workers, or 90% of its total labor force, are migrant workers, making them instrumental for organizing the World Cup. Poor working conditions and the heat stress account for the vast majority of the fatalities, which means that these fatalities could be avoided. The workers are tricked into the country, live in appalling conditions, have their passports confiscated, and are thus unable to leave the country and are paid just enough to survive. Qatar's own reports says that only 37 people have died during construction, and that 34 of those have been, as they call it, non-work related. This is of course a lie and a poor attempt to hide the human rights abuse that are taking place in Qatar. At this rate, the games of the World Cup will be played at stadiums built upon graveyards. These numbers, disturbing as they are, do not come as a shock. Qatar's violation of human rights is nothing new and has been known long before they were awarded the World Cup. But why does Qatar even want to host the World Cup? Given that the spotlight directed at Qatar has highlighted the country's worst sides and sparked global outrage against the Gulf state, the question is entitled. The answer is sports washing, namely reputation laundering through the use of sport. In order to direct attention away from the nation's human rights record, Qatar is instead advertising itself as a new global venue for tourism and events, with luxurious stadiums, modern infrastructure, and stunning architecture. Everything that will improve Qatar's reputation will be highlighted and exaggerated. Everything that will damage Qatar's reputation, on the other hand, will be hidden away, at least for the duration of the World Cup. Actually, Qatar's attempt to use football to improve its reputation is not limited to just the World Cup. PSG, for instance, is owned by Qatar Sports Investment, a state-owned company. PSG chairman and president, Nasser, is an executive committee member at UEFA since 2019. Moreover, Qatar Airways, owned by the Qatari government, has increased its presence around the world, partly by displaying its logo on several of the biggest teams in the world, including, for instance, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Boca Juniors, Paris Saint-Germain, and Roma. Qatar Airways is also the official partner of FIFA since 2017. Basically, Qatar is using the World Cup as one of many ways to influence and hopefully change the perception of their country. Despite the absurdity of the World Cup taking place in Qatar, despite the human rights abuses that have taken place in preparation for the tournament, the prominent actors have been notably absent. However, during the spring of 2021, Tromsø, a top-flight club in Norway, stated that their national team should boycott the 2022 World Cup, and a domino effect followed. Norway's national team, with stars like Ødegaard and Haaland, then protested the human rights violations in Qatar with the message "Human rights on and off the pitch," while urging the other nations to follow their example. Soon thereafter, Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands joined the protest and specifically criticized Qatar's treatment of migrant workers. But while the players have initiated action, companies sponsoring the World Cup have been noticeably quiet regarding the situation in Qatar. And sponsors have a lot of impact. Their funding is instrumental to FIFA, as well as the tournament in general, which means that they have the power and leverage to advocate for change. As we saw when the World Cup in ice hockey was abruptly moved from Belarus over security concerns, it was only when the sponsors withdrew that action followed. As a consumer and mere supporter, it is harder to affect the course, and one can easily feel helpless. Nevertheless, it is important to recognize that this World Cup was awarded due to corruption. The tournament had to be moved to winter due to the extreme heat during the summer, was built by people working under slave-like conditions, and that the World Cup is used as a platform to manipulate the perception of a state correctly associated with human rights violations. And it is important to remember this, because the World Cup will be played in Qatar. Modern football is way too embedded with highly questionable actors that sudden moral awareness will be way too complicated. But recognizing that this is not a single event that has been desecrated by Qatar, but it is a sport that has been increasingly exploited, not for its beauty, but for the platform it provides, is absolutely crucial if you ever would want to stop this transformation. Qatar World Cup 2022. At all costs?